Okay, welcome to the Soundscape webinar. I'm Amos Miller. I'm the product strategist for Microsoft Soundscape, and I'm joined here by my friend and colleague Jarnail Chudge. Jarnail and I are the co-founders of Soundscape in the Enable team in Microsoft Research. My interest is in technologies that augment human perception and the sensory interaction with the environment, with a particular interest in experiences for people with disabilities and different abilities. Okay, so here's the game plan. I'm going to start by introducing the challenge that our work on Soundscape is attempting to address, and walk you through some of the key elements of the solution to give you a good sense of what it's about. I'll then hand over to Jarnail, and he will walk you through the way that we've developed Soundscape in the wild with users. He'll discuss some of the really fascinating discoveries that we made along the way, and how we developed some of the principles that guide the Soundscape experience. And then we'll look forward and ask, what does this mean for the future of human empowerment and technology? So a lot to cover. This work started with a big question. The large majority of people who are blind or low vision in the world really do not enjoy the same level of freedom as everyone else. And even with all the great technology that's around, that is still a big challenge. And we really set out to explore how can we tap into advancements in technology, into new research in HCI, a new understanding of motor neuroscience, to make a material difference to people when they're out and about, to people who are blind when they're out and about. Really look at how technology not only help with navigation, but help them gain a sense of independence. At the heart of this quest, there's a set of words that we use to characterize the experience. Presence, awareness, flow, words like agency, human agency, and control. And we may not be aware when these characteristics are present, but we surely do know when they are not present. Imagine for a moment when you're driving along, you've got some quiet classical music playing through your stereo, your kiddo is telling you about a difficult day that they had at school today. And then bam, your GPS comes in, 100 meters you have to turn left. Now you're faced with a stressful moment, working out what that last instruction meant and how you interpret it, and that magical moment is gone. Yep, we do know when that experience breaks down, and we also know that it doesn't really have to be that way. And that's what this talk is about. As a blind person, when I'm out and about, I do want the technology to help me navigate and feel more confident out there. But I also want it to empower me to be more aware of my environment, to be present with the people that I'm with, to feel a greater sense of empowerment. So let me first walk you through what Soundscape is, and then we can dive into how we address these challenges. So the idea with Soundscape is that we use 3D spatial audio to help you build a richer awareness of your surroundings when you're out and about. Spatial audio is really cool technology that with stereo headphones you can place sounds and audio cues that they sound like they come from the environment rather than inside your head. So for example, wearing a stereo headset with Soundscape on my phone, I can walk down the street, and if Starbucks is coming in front of me on the right, I'll hear the word Starbucks over there where Starbucks is, which is really cool. And I can hear exactly the direction that it's in. If I walk up to an intersection, I'll hear the name of the road on the left, way over there on the left, not in my ear or inside my head, but way over there on the left. I'll hear one in front of me, I'll hear one on the right, so I get the layout of the intersection as well as the names of the road, so I can make my navigation decision. Let's run a brief video to give you a sense for what that experience is like. The video is not going to be in stereo, so you won't hear Spatial, but we'll provide links to the video so you can watch it afterwards as well with stereo headphones. Hello and welcome. We are going to demonstrate how I use Soundscape. I have my friend Emily here with me.
Hi there.
And my guide dog Trevor. You're going to hear and experience Soundscape in the same way that I do through these headsets. So let's go.
Facing north along 101st Avenue South.
So Emily, where should we go?
I hear there's a place called Local Burger nearby. Would you like to try it?
Let's do it. I'll set a beacon to it. Now I can hear the beacon over in front of us and to our right. That's where the Local Burger is.
Excellent. That beacon's really helpful as I can't see past these trees.
Fantastic. So let's go there.
All right.
Instead of step-by-step instructions, Soundscape lets me hear where the destination is so I can make my way there.
Main Street.
We're coming up
goes
to
left.
an intersection
Main Street
here.
goes right. Crossing.
Here's the crossing. Listen to the traffic. We're safe to cross?
All right, and it's safe to cross.
France
Do it.
chocolates.
Hey, here's Franz chocolate over there.
Cantonetta.
Oh, perfect. We should set a marker there on our way back.
Now I can hear the beacon loud and clear on my right, so we'll turn right.
Facing north along
And
Main
here
Street.
it comes right in front of us, so we know we're walking straight towards it.
Forum Plaza.
On Main Street and straight
Pastel
towards the
Rear Lane
beacon.
today.
We're going to start hearing it coming on our left as we get close to the Local Burger.
Joseph Jewellery. Gilbert's on Main.
And
Beacon close by.
I can see the door.
here we are. Fantastic. Emily, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. Let me break it down. Soundscape is running on the phone and it knows the person's location and the direction that they're facing, and it draws data of them from the map to work out what's in their surroundings, and then through the stereo headphones it's able to place the callouts in 3D. Our work in MSR actually on spatial sound and head rotation transfer function that was led by 𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗁𝗲 has been a very foundational component of this work. And the headset is a really important piece here. First of all, we look for good stereo headsets, but importantly, headsets that don't block the environmental sound so that you can hear everything around you while hearing the augmented sound. We also love head tracking headsets. These are headsets with sensors that track your head movement, and that enables us to improve the 3D image significantly by tracking small head movements, and also to ensure that the audio stage remains stable when you move your head. So for example, if Starbucks is over there and you've turned your head at 45 degrees in the other direction, Starbucks doesn't turn with you. Folks who are familiar with motor neuroscience will recognize how this mechanism leverages active inference in multi-sensory input. But put simply, our brain is just a natural when it comes to hearing spatial sound in the environment and using it for awareness and for movement and navigation. The Soundscape app is available on the App Store for anybody to use, and we encourage you to go and try it out. It's quite different from other navigation apps, but it's really simple and a lot of fun to use. You just put your stereo headphones on, start the app, and walk. You'll immediately start to get callouts in 3D around you. If you want to head somewhere specifically, you can search for that location. You set what we call a virtual audio beacon to that destination, and instead of turn-by-turn directions, you'll hear a bell emanating from that location so that you know where it is, and you make your way there. And you'll notice when you walk, it doesn't demand your attention in any way. You can remain present. in your surroundings, in your conversation with a friend, yet still be fully aware of where you're headed. So how and why did we arrive at the idea of using sound in this way? Let me hand over to Jarnail Chudge to share some fascinating insights.
Thank you, Amos. Hi, I'm Jarnail Chudge, and my background is in design and research. What particularly motivates and inspires me is designing empowering, sustainable and inclusive experiences which enhance human awareness, and which not only allow us to do more, but actually be more. So as Amos said, how and why did we arrive at using sound in this way? Well, ultimately, it comes down to the importance of getting out into the real world, with real people, and seeking to understand, right at the point of the experience, exactly what is going on. And through that design method, identifying gaps and possibilities and opportunities. And it was during one such research visit in the Temple Inn area of London, as these photos from the visit go to show, there's quite a group of us, courtesy of the Guide Dogs NGO in the UK. We had some guide dog owners, some orientation and mobility specialists, a local travel guide, and of course a mix of researchers, designers and engineers from Microsoft. We spent the day immersed in the experience, and it was only a couple of days later, when Amos and I were reflecting on the visit, that we recalled a particular fountain. It's in the central picture, a lovely little fountain in a courtyard, and it suddenly dawned on us that we always knew where we were in relation to it, because sometimes we'd hear it ahead of us, or to the side, or coming from the back. And because of that, we always had our bearings, even if at the time we weren't fully conscious of that. And it was that experience and the impression it created that led us to really double down on looking at how we could use sound in a more natural and effortless way. It was really then that we threw ourselves into the design process, focusing on a range of different end-user activities, but always in the context of that end-to-end experience. We ran a series of workshops with a diverse group of participants, a little like the research visit, but this time, with each workshop getting tighter and tighter on the attributes of the experience and the scope. It was highly iterative and dynamic. We'd go down a particular route, get really excited about something, and then whatever it was didn't quite sync or feel right, and then we'd go back. But by allowing some time between each workshop, we gave ourselves a little bit of space to reflect, to reimagine, digest and absorb what we were doing, and come back to it again. And slowly but surely, the experience maps, the broad spectrum of people that we were considering, the actual interactions and information needs at any given step, all started to come together. And unusually for us, actually, our deliverable in the first instance was a 15-minute movie. And we set it about 5 or 7 years in the future, back when we actually did it, and we called it a family day out, because we wanted it to be about the normal, everyday activities of life. In this case, organising a day out in London. Our central character, Bill, actually played by a blind actor, is organising it for his young son and his elderly father-in-law. And over the course of the movie, as shown by the different scenes on the slide here, we see Bill deal with and handle a range of different situations. From travel disruption, they take a picnic in the park, do a spot of shopping, they visit the Natural History Museum, all the things that you'd expect really. But importantly, he's using technology naturally and effortlessly. And above all, the spatial sound that we've created is allowing him to be independent and engaged, and enriching his relationship with the spaces and the places that they're in throughout the whole day. One unusual artifact from doing a movie was actually writing a script for every scene, every interaction from the perspective of the different characters. It's not something that we typically do in UX or design, but it really forced us to think hard about every word and every action and how we tied it in to what it wanted to convey. It's a great way of actually paring the content down to that which is absolutely essential. However, we think that what really set this apart was that as a side project to the movie, we were determined to establish the feasibility of spatial audio. And remember, this was a good few years ago. And it's all very well depicting it in a positive light in a movie, but we wanted to feel confident that the technology itself that we were portraying was capable of coming together to deliver the experience that we were depicting. So we did a hack, way before hacking became the phenomenon it is now. So we got some big over-the-ear gamer headsets. We attached some sensors to the top of it so that we could track the movement of the head. We attached those sensors to a circuit board encased inside a little metal biscuit tin, as you see in the photos here. And finally, that circuit board was then tethered to a laptop held by another person. Not particularly portable, but with it, we were able to create this spatialized sound experience outside our offices. And Amos was able to take a walk from a bus stop to the entrance of Building 3, something he had never done before, all guided by sound. So, inspired by the movie and the prototype and the momentum that was beginning to build around the work, we set out to build the technology for real and sketched out a scope that involved a person travelling from their house in a residential neighbourhood, making their way to a bus stop, travelling on that bus into town where they would catch the train and they get a bite to eat. As part of the first phase of work, we created this small corridor between Reading, which is a small city to the west of London, and London itself, which we then instrumented with data and sensors and beacons and buses, a whole host of things, so that we could have an end-to-end experience that we could validate. And we worked closely with a number of internal and external collaborators to put it all together. And as we did, one thing that was foremost in our minds was finding the right balance between the human experience and the technology. We knew that the technologies that we were working with weren't yet quite ready for prime time, they weren't yet generally available, and not designed to do some of the things that we wanted to do with them. But we hacked our way around some of those challenges and reminded ourselves time and time again that whatever we did, always strive to keep that soul of the experience intact. As Amos said earlier, about being present, about being in the flow. And to that end, as a team, we immersed ourselves further in the experience of a blind traveller. We spent countless hours with mobility specialists and produced this enormous Visio sheet, which ran, I think, about 10-15 meters wide, and for every single step of that journey. We atomically broke it down, and for each step there were 12 or so layers of information that provided a contextualized richness that really was quite unique. And as we completed phase 1, we worked with researchers at Guide Dogs to validate the end-to-end experience, as per the slide. So there were 17 measures in particular that they were interested in, to do with orientation, mobility, cognition, physiology, and so on. And we had 8 participants take part, and they were able to go deep and do a before and after analysis of their experience. So firstly, without the Soundscape technology to begin with, and then a week later, those researchers took those same people out again, but this time with Soundscape. And of their 17 measures, they found that 10 had shown a significant increase, and that the remaining 7 had either shown a slight improvement or remained the same. So from our perspective, that was great. It was probably the best we had hoped for. However, it was analysing their verbatim feedback that really acted as a challenge to us in terms of what we did next. Sure, spatial audio provided a richer experience which every person enjoyed, but it was their feedback that it made them feel more confident, it made them feel more connected and more present, that really made us sit up and take notice. It was those feelings and those sentiments that we felt we had to understand and deliver through Soundscape. So, in phase 2 of the work, we did a complete about turn on the paradigm that we were designing the experience to. We realised that we were making the experience better along already well-known routes, but for us, we felt that true empowerment could only come through a traveller being able to go where they wanted to go, on their own terms, and not being reliant on anyone else. So we moved away from the initial prescriptive turn-by-turn instructions that we were providing, and focused instead on providing a description of a person's environment. So with Soundscape, as Amos described, this works beautifully because the call-outs of these places come from the direction where they actually are in relation to you. So you just naturally, almost innately, begin to build an awareness of your surroundings. And with that mental map that's beginning to form, that confidence just emerges to be able to go where you want. Because you know, if you take a wrong turn, you'll just be able to recover and make your way back to a known place. So in phase 2, we invited 12 people into Reading. 8 of these participants had never been to the city before, and all of them, within the space of a couple of hours, were able to make their way around from the train station to a department store, a cafe, then across town to the town hall itself. And every one of them was able to accurately describe the spatial relationship between these different places. It was amazing. I mean, we saw their confidence visibly increase throughout the day. We saw them becoming more spontaneous and so much more willing to explore and learn about these new places. And we felt this was it. This was Soundscape. So, moving on, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work we've done to help us better understand the value that Soundscape can bring. And the way we approach this was through the lens of accessibility and inclusion. So clearly, accessibility is a responsibility, enforceable by law in many cases. There are over 1 billion people in the world who have disabilities, many of whom need assistive technology. But only 1 in 10 of those people have access to the products they need. And this means that they can't fully participate in our economies, in society, and accessible technology can allow that participation to take place. And we know that disability is something that can affect any of us or someone we love at any time. Whether it's permanent, in the case of a permanent with 1 arm, for example, temporary if a person has an arm injury and is using a sling, or situational, as in the case of a new parent holding the baby in 1 arm. The experience is the same. But accessibility can also be seen as an opportunity to develop and apply innovation that levels the playing field for everyone. So research, in this case from 𝗥𝗲𝘀𝗁, indicates that organizations which are inclusive and value accessibility outperform their peers by quite a way. So 28% higher revenue, double the net income, and a profit margin that's 30% higher. So bottom line, accessibility and inclusion just makes good business sense. So, what have we been doing to help realize and demonstrate that opportunity for Soundscape? So being guided and informed by the building blocks of the Soundscape experience, about enhancing awareness, keeping you the person in control, allowing you to engage and connect through this innovative audio experience. So one of the aspects that really driving us is a desire to better understand the value that our customers and our partners see in Soundscape and in spatial audio in general. And based on that, we've actually embarked on a few adventures of our own. So currently, Soundscape is all about the outdoor experience, but of course, the indoor space beckons as well. We did a proof of concept about a year or so ago at King's Cross Station, where we integrated Soundscape with an indoor position technology to guide a person independently around a very busy train station. We learnt a lot from that experience, in particular the value that indoor venues such as shopping centres, supermarkets, transport hubs, etc. all place on creating a richer and more engaging experience. And as indoor positioning technology continues to mature, we see great potential for Soundscape to contribute to that space. So on this slide here, our work at Skyview visitor attraction in Stockholm was really quite unique. Here, we worked to create an audio experience that used the familiar Soundscape beacon to guide a visitor to a landmark that they had chosen on the Stockholm skyline. And then once they were directly facing it, they heard that familiar bell sound. But then we virtually transported them as if they were there. So imagine they've selected the Royal Palace and they could directly hear what it's like during the changing of the guard ceremony. So you're in the middle of the crowd and you can hear the chitter-chatter all around you. Over to your right, the trumpeters are playing. Over to your left, you hear the neighing of the horses. It's just as if you're right there. So that's real 3D immersive audio that allows people to connect with places in a new and different way, to experience something that they hadn't really ever imagined. We've also been doing a lot of work in the area of adaptive sports. So what initially began as a hackathon project a couple of years ago is now turning into something that is allowing our partners to create their own bespoke experiences. Here, they were using Soundscape while paddling, making their way around the water with their companion, just enjoying the sun. And spatial audio and non-verbal cues don't compete with our cognitive ability to attend to a conversation or to a complex task such as paddling at the time. Ironically, or appropriately in many ways, each person was able to remain present and in complete flow. We had a lot of fun doing this work, and here's just a little snippet from the first time we introduced it to a group of volunteers.
Cindy, smiling and full of joy, coming back to shore.
So much fun!
I really appreciate the whole Soundscape team having all of us out today. I'm happy to be a part of a movement, and that is to help all of us live more independently and full and rich lives.
Amos, over to you now.
Jarnail, thank you. That was wonderful. We began the talk by looking at these characteristics of the experience which Jarnail touched upon. Presence, awareness, flow, agency. And you can see clearly that these are relevant to a whole range of experiences in human situations. I mean, we're all too familiar with the phone taking our attention away when we're out and about, or sitting around at the dinner table with our family. Even in navigation, we actually recently published an essay in Scientific American where we discuss how soundscapes-based audio guidance draws on our basic human skills for navigation, and in fact does a better job with awareness and mental mapping as compared with turn-by-turn directions. We also all spend a great deal of time in remote meetings these days, in front of a cluttered screen with voices that are mixed together and you can barely know who's speaking. With spatial audio, you can separate these voices out. You can feel more present with the people that you are in the meeting with and stay in flow and not constantly distracted. Augmented reality technologies, they bring huge potential to our human experience and draw on our ability to imagine. We actually recently added a beta feature to Soundscape that we call Street Preview, where you can transport yourself to anywhere in the world and experience the area in full spatial audio virtual reality. It really is an amazing experience. It engages your whole body and imagination. When we think about the devices that make their way into the fabric of our experience, we want these devices to support our human experience, to amplify it, not replace it or dampen our engagement. And this calls for further research in areas such as human perception, attention, how we manage attention and our awareness, questions that are related to agency and the characteristics of a technology that ultimately makes us more human. Jarnail.
Thank you, Amos. So, to sum things up a little bit, we'll share some of the key things that we've learned through our journey with Soundscape and what it may mean for evolving product and service design and research. So firstly, this has been greatly aided by the multidisciplinary and diverse team that we have. Wonderful collaborations with internal groups across Microsoft and with so many of our customers and partners as well. And also the amazing mentors that we've had and continue to have who have guided us along the way. From a creation point of view, the experience really is everything. To get out into that world of your users, learn who they are, what they do, what matters to them. Because it's only at the point of the experience that you'll discover just how diverse that whole ecosystem is and the context in which any particular interaction takes place, and then we can design for that. So we were fortunate too that the opportunity to make a real difference to real people provided a natural sense of purpose, and working within the constraints that we imposed actually acted as a catalyst for innovation. It created a space to explore and investigate and rapidly evolve our design thinking based on what we learned. And as we've seen time and time again, sometimes designing for the edge case, often in the area of disability, provides innovations for everyone. We've seen it with door handles, dropped curbs, magnetic zippers and so on. And now, perhaps we can add Soundscape to that list. So here, this is a wonderful image, isn't it? A group of people crossing an intersection while heads down on their phones. So whether we're out and about or at home or at work, having our heads buried in our phones, we're messaging, playing games, browsing social media, usually oblivious to our surroundings and the people that we're with. Something I think that we can all agree is all too common and all too familiar. We all do it, and yes, often we don't like ourselves for doing it. But we think that with Soundscape, there is a different way. What we feel that Soundscape is allowing us to do is is to tap into our innate human potential and our desire to overcome our limits and grow. One where we're fully attentive to what we're doing or being aware of what's going on around us. So we've actually covered a lot of ground in this webinar, and we hope you've enjoyed it and are excited by the potential of Soundscape as we are. And it feels like we're only just scratching the surface of the power of sound. We know how important it is in how it makes us feel, the energy it creates, and how it connects with our other senses. And we also know the importance of creating silences, of gaps, for the sound and the meaning to come through. Ever so slightly biased, I know, but Soundscape really is quite a special experience. An experience that we feel, instead of reducing, will amplify and augment our capabilities as human beings. And getting closer to that vision of a heads-up, hands-free experience that feels natural and just flows with you. So on behalf of Amos and myself, thank you. Now please do stay for the live Q&A with Amos and myself, which will open in a second or two.